Well, let's speak now to Dana Arschin. She's the granddaughter of a late Holocaust survivor. She works as a Holocaust storyteller for the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County. Dana, thank you so much for joining us, especially today. I want to ask you, it's impossible to ignore the fact that this is happening after the events of October the 7th, 1,200 people killed at least, and 240 taken hostage. What are the emotions you're feeling today?
Today, thank you so much to you and to the entire BBC team for having me and for recognizing this day. You know, I interview Holocaust survivors in person every week. And when they hear about what's happening, the rampant rise of anti-Semitism, they are horrified because it brings so many emotions. And for me as well, as the grandchild of a survivor, we are seeing what was reminiscent of pre-war in Nazi Germany in the 1930s, when we were seeing a rise in anti-Semitism all over Europe. My grandfather said even before the war, when he was a young boy in Poland, he couldn't walk on the sidewalk, that his non-Jewish neighbors would say to him, "Pigs walk in the street." So it's terrifying, especially for the survivors. My grandfather was an Auschwitz survivor, and this day, Holocaust Remembrance Day, also marks the 79th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. So it is an extra meaningful day for me and my family. And it is frightening. And all we can do is educate and speak out. And that's what I'm trying to do every day.
Right. And the FBI has warned against the rise of anti-Semitism and hate crimes after the events of October the 7th. I wonder what made you decide to dedicate your work to telling your grandfather's story and the story of so many other survivors?
So my Poppy is my inspiration. He passed away on December 23rd, just a few weeks ago at 101 years old. And I always felt like it was my obligation to keep his story alive because I would not be here if it weren't for him. And I know that. He had so many close calls, and every day he made the decision to live or die. He watched people in Auschwitz run to the electric fence to take their own lives because they were so miserable and they wanted to kill themselves before the Nazis could do it their way. And every day he made a decision to live. So I dedicate my life to this work because I feel like I have to. I was a news reporter for a long time in New York City, and I had the wonderful opportunity at my last station to be able to create a Holocaust series. And I went around the tri-state area in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, interviewing survivors. And I got such positive feedback on that work, and people could see my passion. And I started to think that I kind of only wanted to do that. And I was exploring different opportunities, and I wrote up a pitch. And I sent it to a local Holocaust museum, and I said, I want to become your first ever storyteller. Basically take the series that I was doing on TV and bring it to this museum on Long Island in New York. And my stories, instead of being broadcast on TV, they are now blasted out all over social media. On Instagram alone, they're getting over 100,000 views. So it has been incredibly rewarding and fulfilling. Right. And the fact that it is getting so many views and engagement shows that people still want to hear these stories.
And Dana, I just want to say I'm so sorry for your loss, especially since it's so recent, and the fact that he's passed away amidst this war right now. I wonder what were his feelings during this time? He witnessed what was happening, and clearly he was unwell. What did he say to you?
You know, what was incredible is that my grandfather, I always had him here in New York with me, but during the pandemic, they moved down to Florida. And I would go and visit once or twice a year, however much I could. But I had interviewed a 101-year-old survivor over the summer, and she was as sharp as a knife. I thought she'd live forever, and she passed away a few weeks later. And that day I was like, you know what? I'm supposed to see my grandfather in December, but I just feel like I need to see him sooner. So I booked a trip to visit him, and I flew out the morning of October 7th. And I had no idea, obviously, what was to happen that day. I had booked this weeks earlier. And I wake up that morning to fly to Florida, and my husband says, I think Israel's been attacked. And we couldn't comprehend what was happening. And I was with him on October 7th in Florida, and he was trying to grapple with what was going on. And, all he kept saying is that the Jews will persevere we have been through this over and over again, and he felt like we were going to be strong and fight. We did shield him from what was happening to the extent we really didn't want to bring around that trauma. So I don't think he fully understood the death toll and the severity of the conflict, but he was in an assisted living, but he was horrified. But he always felt like the Jewish people have always become stronger as a result of being attacked over and over again. And I think that was his hope for the future.
Dana, again, I'm very sorry for your loss, but thank you for sharing that with us.